What's up, guys? This episode of the Kind of Funny Gamescast is brought to you by Casper Mattresses. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. They're revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing that savings directly to the consumer. Casper combines two technologies, the springy latex foam and supportive memory foam, to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right amount of sink and just the right amount of bounce. Get a Casper mattress for $500 for a twin or $950 for a king size. Comparing this to industry averages, that's an outstanding price point. And you can save $50 towards a mattress purchase when you go to casper.com/gamecast and entering the promo code GAMECAST. That's Gamescast without the S, so GAMECAST. Terms and conditions apply. It's free shipping and returns to the US and Canada. Again, that's casper.com/gamecast and promo code GAMECAST. What's up, guys? Welcome to the first ever episode 86 of the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by the coolest dudes in video games, Colin Moriarty and Greg Miller.
Hi.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Okay.
You having a good
Colin's
day?
shirt always makes me think for a second it's a Red Dead shirt. Because it's black and it says red. I'm like, red, black.
Red.
It's my Red Dead 3 shirt.
Northeastern. They're going crazy,
They
yeah.
have horses over there.
Like, we're done with Mexico.
Done
fine.
that. They're riding
fine.
in the tunnels underneath Northeastern.
You guys been playing any fun games lately?
Oceanhorn.
Oceanhorn.
I continue to play that.
What's up with that?
It's a Zelda knockoff. I think we were talking about it on last week's Gamescast. I played a little bit of it, played a little bit more. Super simple, super fun though. In terms of it's just totally Zelda on PlayStation 4, and it's not even when I first started. I was like, oh, it's Zelda in the way of like I got my sword, I got my shield, isometric, whatever, top down or not top down, whatever out. Going through, chopping up stuff, getting pots, smashing them. I get the things, go through and play it. And then it was like, oh, now you got to go on this boat to another island. I got in the boat. I'm like, well, this fucking looks exactly like Wind Waker.
Is there a talking dragon?
Not yet. I haven't had a talking dragon yet. Not yet.
No?
Not yet.
Okay.
No. But I have been shooting a whole bunch of other people. But there's like creatures that are like totally like this guy pops out of the ground and shoots the pebble at me. And I'm like, oh, bunk, knock it right back at him. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, whatever. It's fun.
I didn't realize this was a mobile game.
Me neither.
First.
No, because we talked about it before in the last Gamescast, and then somebody was like, "Yeah, this came out to Apple TV. It's been out for years or whatever," and showed them playing with it. And when playing it, I knew it seemed simple, and it has that thing of like, you're in a new area. Here are the three challenges and stuff. That's such a mobile trope or whatever. But just like the Steam version that's super well rated, this one is fun. There's something about it. It's just that formula in this style. There's no like deep story to it. Obviously, I mean, you got to find your father or whatever, but it's just fun going island to island, going through, doing these puzzles, going, having fun.
Yeah. You been playing anything, Cole?
Not really. I before PAX we worked that whole week, and then PAX, and then so I've not played anything except for I got most of the way through Inside. I was getting the trophies, and then Erin wanted to play it, so I started playing it with her or whatever, and starting again. And I got so I don't know how the game ends. We're gonna get there hopefully today after work, but because I'm kind of super curious actually about what this game is all about. I got to give a shout out to this game. This game is a masterclass of design, and I'm
really happy you like it.
It's an absolutely brilliant game.
I wouldn't expect you to.
It's awesome. I think it's different than Limbo. I haven't played Limbo in years, but when I played Limbo, I was like, this is fine. It's a good game. I don't understand, as we said before, why is this so acclaimed? Like it's a fun, clever little game. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that it was really one of the proving grounds of the viability of the downloadable platform. Inside is so clever, and you can tell why it took a long time to make, because obviously they're a small team. They have the money to take their time. Limbo's on everything, and they made a fucking ton of money. But I like how nothing in the game happens by chance, and nothing's coincidental in the game. Everything's there for a reason, and obviously in a linear game like that, that's easy to do in premise. But designing an interesting feedback loop where you almost want to die to see what happens, and that is one of the mechanics in the game, is just figuring out what happens if you pull this switch, just so you know. And one of the cool things with Erin specifically is that because she doesn't play games and she's learning, is that she's learning. It's fun watching someone learn what I would call gaming logic in this game. I'm like, well, there's just pull the box or pull the switch and figure out what happens, the things we take for granted. But what the coolest thing in I don't even want to talk about specific parts, but there's a part in the game that I think is maybe one of the most clever things I'd ever seen in a game before. It's specifically when you're walking with a bunch of people in a lobby.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's very simple and it's super fucking creepy, and it opens that part of the game opens the story up in a very specific way if you pay attention. But I'm like, this takes a high level of like game know-how to make a game like this, and
nuance.
It's all about nuance, and I love how every death in the game is not. Even in a AAA, well-received game like Uncharted 4, Drake's falling off a cliff and he clips through the world, and there's like a scream that you heard 5 times. And that's it, right?
No.
Or in Metal Gear Solid games, always love the snake or whatever, but it's like it just goes, and that's then they're like, the game over thing or whatever. But in this, like, if you die on this screen, someone animated a way for you to die on this screen from this thing.
Yep.
And then you move on to the next screen, and it's like there's 3 ways to die here, and each of those is like a very designed, specific way to die. It's not
brutal too.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's so cool. This game is really cool. There's another part of the game where you pull a switch, and if you just wait for minutes, like there's no reason to wait, but if you just wait for minutes on end, you see these guys pull out a machine, and like it literally takes probably like 2 minutes. They eventually like wheel out this thing and then turn it on, and then it eventually just finds you. So like you can leave the game just sitting there for like 5 minutes, and then eventually it'll kill you. And so I was. Not knowing how it ends and all that kind of stuff, I think the story's super intriguing. I have no idea. She and I keep talking like, what do you think's happening? I'm like, I really don't know. Like, I really have no idea. Like, what?
I can't wait to talk to you about.
I have
this
no
next
assumption
week.
of what it even is, and I just think it's an absolute masterclass in game design. Like, this is exactly what I'm talking about when I say like the answers to our problems in gaming do not come from necessarily power of the machine, but from fucking clever minds that work within the confines of what we already have. And this game doesn't have to even need a PS4 and Xbox One to run. And they might have to draw back the graphics or whatever. It wouldn't make the game any less awesome. So I just want to give a shout out to Playdead, because I think it's a really, really, really fucking cool game.
Yes. This is the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Every week we get together to talk about our love for video games and all things relating to them. You can get it on patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, or you can get it for free on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames as we break it out. If you want to do that, you should subscribe. That'd be really appreciated. Or go to iTunes and search for us. We're also an audio podcast. You can subscribe there. That would help us out too. We'd like that. If you would like to adorn yourself with beautiful, beautiful Kind of Funny goods, you can go to kindoffunny.com/store, where we have a new hoodie that I cannot wait to see everybody wear.
I know.
I think that we might have invented the new Twitch hoodie. You know, everyone wants the purple Twitch hoodie. Now we got the blue Kind of Funny hoodie.
Well, this has been the most annoying thing about. I mean, there's many annoying things about Andy Cortez from Rooster Teeth, but one of the most one is that I feel like, remember when we were at Rooster Teeth that one time and Emily showed us, hey, this is your blue hoodie. We're like, oh great, it didn't have anything on it yet. It was just when they were prototyping it. Andy then just started wearing that blue hoodie. And I'm not sure if he found it in the trash out back or whatever, but he wears this blue hoodie that's clearly supposed to be a Kind of Funny hoodie, but wasn't. And now he's all around. It's like, he's got to stop that shit now.
Yeah.
I'll buy you a fucking one, Andy, if you want. So you stop fucking wearing the knockoff version.
Mm-hmm. But I want to go to conventions, and I want to see a sea of blue. And we'll know. We'll damn know.
We'll damn know.
Those are all peeps. Greg.
Yeah.
You brought up an interesting topic that I would like to talk about
man.
today on the Kind of Funny Gamescast, which is back to school gaming.
Sure.
When you said that, I was like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but you have a very specific thing.
Well, it's as always. I mean, it's this is a conversational podcast, and I want you to run with the topic in any way you do. Okay. But what you think when I say back to school gaming, I think is the topic. For me, because now we're here. Of course, we're in San Francisco. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. There's no real seasons or anything, so you don't get it. But when I think back to school gaming, right, I think of like that was always for me it was always NCAA football. At the end of July, it would come out. And that was like the first thing of like, man, I got this game and I only have 3 weeks left before school starts. So I'm going to pour all my time into this, play it nonstop. This is going to be my life once this game comes out. And that was always the thing of, it was sad getting ready to go back to school in a way. I think it was you that were talking once about how you get excited, you see your friends, you do all these different things. I get that part. But of course, then you also have to sit around with a bunch of shitty teachers telling you shit you don't care about and you fucking hate them. But the good point, right, is that meant fall was starting. And when fall is starting, that means games are coming. You're getting into holiday rush. You're always looking for that, that first major break with Thanksgiving, all this different stuff. But then even October, with Halloween being great, the best holidays we've covered before, there's all these different games coming out in October. That's gaming and like big releases go hand in hand with school, I think, starting back up. And so that's where I'm coming from in terms of what games you associate with going back to school.
Yeah.
Because like I said, for me, it's NCAA football. It was that 1 month to it. I've told the story before of like, when I had an internship out in DC, and then when I was even like getting ready in between.
You mean
high
Washington
school
DC, just to be clear. Not an internship at DC Comics.
No, God, can you fucking imagine? My life would be so much different.
I guarantee you someone out there thinks you had an internship.
No, that'd be amazing. Thanks, Jim Lee, for fucking nothing, as always. Tweet at Jim Lee, everybody, and tell him thanks for nothing, Greg Miller. Don't say the fucking part, just the thanks for nothing.
Always.
But being out there, getting so ready, I remember working in the place my mom worked, which was like this paper company or whatever, and like being on GameFAQs all the time, waiting and getting it. And then when they got that game, I've told the story before of Poe and I bringing his PlayStation 2 over, us till 6 a.m. playing in the basement, switching TVs when somebody got a big game. But then I think about I'll never forget it was my sophomore year, moving into the Antler house and bringing the PlayStation 2 down with me, and I was sitting there playing NCAA, and my friend Reese and Pratt came in, and we were all going out to lunch or something, and I was like, while we wait for somebody to shower or whatever, they came in and were like, oh, cool, can I play? Sure. And I handed it over, and I played. This is when you had profiles on your memory cards, and it was a big deal, kept all your stats, huge deal. And so we're setting up, we get to the line of scrimmage, hike the ball and whatever, blah, blah, and then it was like the stats faded up. And it was, my Greggy profile, and it was something like, and I'm not shitting you, it was something like 326 wins, 167 losses. And Pratt's like, you've played this game more than 500 times, and it's been out 3 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, well, I sat there and I played it nonstop, and I play every game in every season. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not skipping anything. And it was like so ludicrous to him, but for me, it was like such a thing of like, oh, I'm cut from a different cloth than the rest of the people. Even the people who casually play this game are not playing it the way I do, are not consuming it the way I do. And so that was a big part of bringing these experiences back to school and then having to interweave them, right? And I always talk about high school, while not a back to school in the first few weeks game, the wrestling games, right? Always October-ish, early November. And so that's still a huge thing for me of that was, I look at No Mercy over there, WrestleMania 2000. Those are the games that my mom let me have a day off from school to play and be crazy about. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I think about in terms of sitting in class, jonesing, being ready to go, so fucking ready for it, or buying the PlayStation 2 on October 26th, 2000, having to go from school to Meyer, Adam Brown's house, back to school, and then taking the next day off just to fucking play that thing all the time. But that's back to school gaming for me.
I mean, you saying that kind of does jot a lot of things in my mind, where I definitely was not a sports game player at all. So NCAA,
sure.
None of that meant anything to me. And so I was kind of in the back to school gaming is kind of like the not fun part of gaming, because it's E3, everything's announced, but nothing's coming out until November, December. Some of the things would trickle out in October or whatever, but those August games were key.
Yeah.
Because there would always be one of them. I remember
standout.
One year it was Soul Calibur 2 was the big one that everyone was super stoked for.
2003? 2004? It was either,
2?
it was always there. It was. It might have been.
I think it was 2, but 2 or 3.
I remember
but that was such a huge deal because Soul Calibur 1 was so amazing. But Soul Calibur 2, the 3 different versions, either getting Heihachi on PS2, which no one gave a shit about, Spawn on Xbox, which was random,
Link,
but
homie,
awesome, or Link in the GameCube version, which obviously was superior.
That was so fucking awesome. I was so stoked.
So cool, so fucking cool. But yeah, that game was so necessary at the time because we'd kind of had a drought for a while. And we'd been playing Melee forever, but having a new kind of fighting game, especially one with Link and one that felt like that was a fun multiplayer experience. That was something where for at least a couple months, all my friends were coming over and we were taking turns facing off against each other. And then it was either that same year, the year after that, there was F-Zero GX that came out. And man, that might be one of the most underrated games of last two generations.
It's the last F-Zero game, right? Of
the last
on console.
Yeah, I mean, there was one after that on GBA, Maximum Velocity, I think. But the GBA games are great, but GX was such a good game, and it definitely pushed the GameCube in a ridiculous way in terms of speed, in terms of colors and lights and everything, and the controls, and that game was just ahead of its time. And I wish it would come out on a modern system. If that was on PS4, that would just be mind blowing because it was so hard. The career mode in that game is it's fucked up how hard it is, but it was fun. And whenever you accomplished something, it felt good. But the multiplayer was it's different than Mario Kart. In the Mario Kart, there's all these items, all these ways to fuck around. But in F-Zero, it's skill based.
Yeah.
You playing through, you mastering the drift system and that, the moment that you and your friend are both equal in drifting, that's when shit just gets real, because it's just it's anyone's match every single time.
Who's gonna make the one
But
mistake?
Who's gonna make the one mistake?
Yep.
You have to have that perfect thing. And I think it was Port Town is the map, where it's like this giant drift around the thing. And if you mess that up, if you didn't do it perfectly, you lost. And to me, that is kind of the back to school. What are you doing?
How
Kevin?
is he getting worse at switching the camera? Tim was in the middle of a monologue and he switched to me and Colin. Don't fear the wide, Kevin.
Don't fear the wide.
Overuse the wide shot.
Always. Yeah, only switch when we're like going on at the monologue. It's the monologues.
I know, but Greg was giving a look, so I switched to him.
It's not true. I didn't give the look until I saw that it was on us for no fucking reason.
Anyway, so besides F-Zero, like it was also the September and October games and getting excited for those. Because even though I wasn't playing the games, like that was where my mind was at.
That was the thing with like NCAA and Madden to an extent. I rarely played Madden, right? But that was the first, like you're talking about, of the domino of like, okay, the games people care about are starting to come. Like it's going to be a thing now. And from here on out, it's just going to speed up.
And that was back when I was super into Dance Dance Revolution. So those were September games. So DDR Max 1, DDR Max 2, DDR Extreme, bless you.
Thank you.
Those are
DDR bless you.
Yeah, these were the year after year, and those were September games. And I was so excited for those, and like the new, like what new songs are going to be in it, and like all that stuff. Where's Butterfly? And it never came. But then Tony
Crazy
Hawk's,
Town's Butterfly?
No.
Come, my lady, come, my lady. You're my butterfly.
But then the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, eventually Thug games. Those were early October games. And I was every year. That was like my number one thing I was most anticipating. And so eventually we'd get that. And then once you get into November, it's just like November, December were just too good to us.
It was just raining
Too
on you.
good to
Raining
us.
games on you, yeah.
Yeah. What do you call?
So early on, I don't really remember because I feel like back in the NES and SNES day, I wasn't really getting games when they came out necessarily. So I get random games at random times.
Yeah.
During the PS1 era and N64 era, I guess like Ocarina of Time reminds me of back to school. Like because I'm basically tethering that to this fall gaming. Because I kind of agree, it just reminds me of the fall. So not necessarily August or September, but really something like November or October. That game reminds me of like the holiday season, kind of generally in 1998. I love the shit out of that game, and played it with Mike Pope.
Mike Pope, what up?
Mega Man Legends reminds me of that time. Tales of Destiny reminds me of that time. Let's see, what else? I guess like that's the year after I graduated, right when I was going to Northeastern back to school, was Onimusha 2 and Mario Sunshine, which we've talked about in the past.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, that was August. I got both those the same day.
And so I feel like, so I have these like little touchstones. I mean, even Symphony of the Night, Final Fantasy 7. So like games that I played, I played Final Fantasy 7 in, I guess, 8th grade while going back to school. That's when I got my PS1 around then, maybe a little earlier. So it's kind of hard to think back. It's like 20 years ago. So yeah, those kind of games. Mega Man Legends specifically reminds me of that era because I got it for my birthday, which was in October, and my brother came home from Philadelphia and gave it to me. So yeah, and Tales of Destiny, same thing. I got it for my birthday. Like birthday games, I guess generally will remind me of that too. Same thing with records and stuff like that I listen to. So yeah, and then of course the touchstones every year were I used to play Madden every year, so Madden was that, and NHL games. Which typically come out in September. So that's an August game and a September game. So yeah, I think those are the games that remind me of that, but more. And I loved that feeling of like bringing an instruction manual or a strategy guide to school and like pouring over it and just being so excited to get home to play and get your homework done. Tales of Destiny specifically, I was obsessed with that game, and then it's kind of like end of school kind of games too. Like on the other end of that, like Lunar Silver Star Story or something like that. Like that was like a game that reminds me of like finishing a grade. So.
Yeah, I remember for you bringing strategy guides in or being so obsessed to get home. I remember the build up to, I want to say, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. No, that wouldn't make sense.
Rocket Robot on Wheels?
No, I'm thinking maybe it was SmackDown 2. Maybe it was Just Bring It. But wherever they introduced like create a pay-per-view and all that stuff, when they really went crazy with the creative, I remember having these loose leaf sheets I would do where I was like booking this entire thing, this entire fucking run of how I wanted this to go, and then I was going to go home and create those pay-per-views and then create those matches and have them play out the way I wanted them to play out to proliferate these feuds between Owen Hart and whoever. It's like fucking crazy.
Kids are weird, man. Like I remember when Pokemon Gold and Silver was looming and it wasn't going to come out in America, if I remember correctly, until like March or so. It was early or late in the year before, and it was out in Japan. I had no understanding of how that all worked. I was like a second grader. But then my friend told me where I can buy Pokemon Gold and Silver. So I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm doing this. So my dad brought me to this place. We bought it. I had no idea it was Japanese. Booted up, and I'm like, what the hell? There's no, like, I can barely read English. Like, how the hell am I going to do this? But then I remember my friend was like, don't worry, I'll get you a strategy guide from GameFAQs. But I didn't have a computer then.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't have a printer. Couldn't figure that out. So I had to wait for going back to school. I don't think it was in the fall, but I think it was like maybe like coming back from Thanksgiving break or something. And I was so excited because I was trying my best to figure it out. And eventually I learned what symbols meant Pokeball and what symbols meant fight and what symbols meant what I assumed was tackle and bubble beam and whatever.
Yeah.
But then I got to school and this kid gave me this like printed out, like probably
That's awesome.
like
You came through.
200 pieces of paper walking through the entire game. And I would just refer to that and like try to figure out what meant what, which I'm pretty impressed with myself. I beat that game, like completely beat that game, which I'm an idiot and I'm even more of an idiot back then.
Yeah.
So
You're one of them dumb kids.
I'm one of them dumb kids.
No, that was a similar thing for me where I forget, I can never remember. It wasn't Fire Pro, but there was an N64 wrestling game in Japan that was supposed to be the most amazing thing ever, where like, you know, you could reverse out of finishers and like spit the green mist into people's faces and land and have these entrances and all this stuff. And I remember being like, all right, fine, I'm in, I'm getting it. And I sent away for it and it came. I got it and it wouldn't fit in the N64 and I was like, oh, I looked on like the shitty ass, slow ass internet, the 28K PBS or whatever. I'm looking in get on there and I, you know, it was like, okay, cool. All right. Like I do remember that EGM had written an article about how to mod your N64, take off the shell, go in there and remove this thing and you could play carts from around the world. But so then I went back and I'm like, I think it's in this issue, EGM. No, this issue, no. And then I took every EGM off the shelf and went cover to cover. Couldn't find this article. Had to email EGM, who responded back to me that it was like a 1UP, like this is like when they just started 1UP, or maybe not even just started 1UP, they were doing something else.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it was in like that
Extreme
sister
Gamer.
that gamer thing, that gamer mag they had. I don't know, it was something weird that they hit me up and like, this is where you find it. So I finally at this point just bought the adapter to put that in there, and then went to school and printed the GameFAQs giant fucking strategy guide and came back and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing?
Such different times.
Yeah.
You know? Again, I'm so lucky that Pokemon Gold, it was gold, worked on my Game Boy. I didn't know about region locking at all. Like I would have been so heartbroken if I popped that game in and it wouldn't even work.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's a good time.
What store did you go to? Was it like some weird bootlegger?
I have no idea what the name of the store was. We referred to it as the Beanie Baby store, not to be confused with Cards and Comics Central.
Okay.
So Cards and Comics Central was where we bought our Pokemon cards.
Yeah.
Then there was this kind of like real shady place across the street that sold Beanie Babies and Pokemon cards and a bunch of other things that I don't like, swords and shit. And it's like, all right. So my mom and dad would just bring me in and just be like, don't look at all the other stuff. Just look at the
Pokemon
you
stuff.
look through that glass thing. You're just looking at all the cards and like each card's ridiculously expensive. And I'm like, I know. I've read Wizards of the Coast magazine. I know the shit ain't worth that.
Yeah.
But anyways, the Pokemon was cheap though. I remember I got it for like $25.
Damn. All
yeah.
right.
So shout out to you, Beanie Baby store. Shout out to you.
Rest in peace.
Oh yeah.